Welcome in then to the latest edition of Extra Time. Full disclosure, Stevie was here, but then we sent him home because he was not very well.
I don't think you and I will be here tomorrow the way he was coughing in front of us.
It was self-preservation when we were like, get out, don't come back. The question is to Stevie, but I think you kind of had similar views as well, Robbo. Why does Stevie dislike Kai Havertz so much?
Are you putting words into my mouth then?
Well, I'm going to be here's your answer. Is it because he's miles better than Darwin Núñez?
Well, I don't think he's miles better than Darwin Núñez. I think he offers something slightly different. I don't think he's an out-and-out centre-forward. He's good in the air. I think he does something for Arsenal's play because he creates an overload in wide
Craig would
areas.
say he's a passenger.
I wouldn't say he's a passenger. No, I think he offers Arsenal something. But when he's playing as the main centre-forward, they lose that real threat through the middle. So, yeah, he's one of, I would say, Arsenal's weaker players.
OK, Oggy. Here's a good one. Who finishes higher, Manchester United, Spurs or Nottingham Forest?
Oh, Nottingham Forest.
Wow.
Absolutely. There's no way United are catching Forest, and the way that Tottenham are playing right now, I think that is clear as day that Forest will finish above those two. I'm not sure they'll finish top four, but they'll finish above those two.
No-brainer?
No-brainer. They've got a couple of wide players. Elanga and Hudson-Odoi and Woody's scoring goals. And Gibbs, Morgan Gibbs is doing brilliantly.
Just naming players, Robert.
I am, but they've got that pace. They can play on the counter-attack, which makes them quite solid at the back. So I think they'll be above those other two.
Mark Hodgkinson will say Paul Scholes to this next question.
Oh,
he loves Paul Scholes.
He loves Paul. Everybody in Manchester loves
He loves Paul Scholes, does Oggy. Start, bench or drop at their peak. Scholes, Pirlo, Xavi Alonso.
Pirlo start.
Oh, he doesn't mean it. Doesn't mean it.
He's just proving you wrong.
No, I'm just being contrary. bench Scholes, drop Alonso.
There you are. That's right. Well,
I would go along with that.
Yes.
I loved watching Pirlo when he was at his prime. Well, he wasn't. He was actually probably beyond his prime when he was playing for Juventus.
Yeah.
And he just controlled that midfield.
Yeah.
And he was totally against an Antonio Conte sort of player. But Antonio Conte put in there. He sprayed the passes from one side of the field to the other. And Juventus were the best team, I thought, in Europe at the time, without ever going on and doing well in the Champions League.
now, Don upset a lot of people in a couple of days ago when he was asked about, I think it was in their prime Premier League. Well, okay, all right. Right, I've got to read the tweet and they'll play the sound. I didn't know there was sound. When will the panel admit there is an RDS, Ronaldo delusion syndrome? How could someone as experienced as Don say Ronaldo didn't achieve anything in the Premier League compared to Hazard, Henry and Salah? Rank these Premier League greats. Cristiano Ronaldo, Eden Hazard, Mo Salah, Thierry Henry.
Well, are we judging Ronaldo when he was in the Premier League, obviously?
This is just Premier League, because obviously Ronaldo would be a layup.
Ronaldo would be bottom then, because he was just a young kid at Man United at the time. Didn't become a great until he got to Real Madrid. Then I would go Eden Hazard. Then I would go, and people will knock me, from back to front, I would say Ronaldo last, then Hazard, then Henry, Mo Salah top.
A lot of people have been in contact, obviously. You mentioned Cristiano Ronaldo. People get quite excited, especially when you're critical of him. 3 Premier League titles in 236 games. He scored 103 goals, 37 assists. He won the Ballon d'Or while at Manchester United and the Champions League as well. Don's not here to defend himself, but who cares, Mark? Fair to say that Ronaldo didn't do much for United?
Those last 2 seasons at United, it was the first time around, not the second time. It was amazing. It was unplayable. That front three of Rooney, Tevez, and Ronaldo were unstoppable. And I think he scored like 40 goals in one of the seasons for Ronaldo. So he was an amazing player for the last 2 seasons. And you know, I was covering the club day to day at the time, and there was an ongoing saga as to when he was going to Real Madrid, because at that point he was the best player in the world, and he was already that when he was at Man United. So in terms of longevity, I think his greatness was probably a 2-year period. So Thierry Henry and Mo Salah probably eclipsed that in terms of the time at the club. But Henry did it with the Champions League at Arsenal. Ronaldo won it at United. I think Hazard's not even in the conversation, to be honest. I think it's Ronaldo just behind Mo Salah and just above Henry, but definitely ahead of Eden Hazard.
Do you have RDS, Robbo?
No, Ronaldo was a great player. But remember when you're talking about Don, this is the person that said Harry Kane would never, ever go to Bayern Munich because he doesn't need to go there at all.
Yes.
He wants to be the Premier League
remember that summer,
scorer,
yes.
And no way would he go to Bayern. Why would he want to go there? And actual words were, who would score the goals for Bayern Munich? Well, that's why they're buying Harry Kane. So that's the same person who said that.
Yes, there we go. Poor Don. Start, bench, drop, Robbo. Roy Keane, Graham Souness, Patrick Vieira.
I'm going to go for top Graham
you
Souness.
kicked by Graham Souness?
I was not kicked by, but I played against Graham Souness and I played against Roy Keane. So I'm going to go with one of the hardest games I played was playing for Coventry, and there was a young Roy Keane player who I didn't know much about.
Right.
And he kept on making these forward runs, and I pulled my hamstring chasing him on that.
Oh, no.
So I'm going to put him right at the top.
Right.
That was obviously before he went to Manchester United. He was a great player then. Souness led by example in terms of his aggression, but he was also a good footballer. And who was the other one you said? Patrick Vieira.
He played for Arsenal.
Yeah, he played for Arsenal.
Not a bad player.
But he played under Arsene Wenger. So no, he'll have to be.
Because you're anti-Arsene Wenger ways.
Yeah.
How would you think of Souness and the Souness that I saw growing up? You know, as you say, very much competitive, physical, aggressive. Could he have changed his game with VAR? Because obviously...
he'd have had to have changed his game. But what people forget about Graham Souness, they talk about the hard tackling and the stupidity at times where he got himself sent off. I remember the first game he played for the Rangers as the player manager, got himself sent off. He went with a flag was it the Galatasaray flag in somewhere else? But he could still play. He could pass the ball. He led Liverpool when they were the top club in Europe. You know, he was the player that, and Stevie Nicol will tell you, that the others looked up to because he was just that giant of a cat. Not today, of course, he'd have coughed his way through that. But no, Graham Souness was a great player. Nobody really liked him away from Liverpool, but he was a great player.
What do you mean by that?
Because he was dirty.
Oh, I see. Oggy, Keane, Souness, Vieira, where are we going?
It's probably the same order as Robbo actually, but I think Keane and Souness are very, very close. But again, I just give it to Keane because of his longevity. He was at United for over 10 years, and Sui didn't have that sort of period at Liverpool. But what did he win? 3 European Cups. So fair play to Souness there. I think both ahead of Vieira, who was a great player, but Keane, Souness, Keane and Sui joint top, and Vieira third.
Are you surprised Keane has become such a popular pundit, Mark?
Well, no, because he's blunt, isn't he? He says what he thinks, but obviously he plays up to it a little bit. He plays up to the character, but he is very hard with his comments as he was in his tackling. So no, he's a really good pundit, and probably a better pundit than a manager.
Well, that's not difficult though, to be fair. No. What's the worst weather you've ever played in, Robbo?
The worst weather I've ever played in. We lost, and Arsenal, it's a famous loss to York City
in the FA Cup.
In the FA Cup many years ago. And there was snow all over the pitch on the morning of the game, and all the locals came and tried to sweep the snow off. And the sun then came out, but only for a little while. One half of the pitch was mud, the other half of the pitch was sheer ice.
Wow.
And it was impossible to play on. And of course, York City beat us with a last-minute penalty, and it was probably the end of Don Howe after that.
Robbo.
So a sad day for us all.
Oh, wow. What about you, Mark? Like covering games, is there one game that stands out where you think, this is not what I signed up for?
I was in Kazakhstan watching Man United lose to FC Astana in minus 27 degrees Celsius.
Wow.
So what's that in Fahrenheit? About minus 50. That was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And listen, the stadium was covered, but that was the only time I was kind of warm in the whole 2-day trip. So that was really, really, really cold.
That's very cold.
I bet he was a glove wearer, wasn't he?
Well, you're allowed to wear gloves, aren't you, in that sort of temperature? No, Robbo, you're not having that?
I'm not having wearing gloves.
Well, that's fair enough. Robbo is here with us for the next few days into 2025. He'll, of course, return tomorrow as we reflect on Manchester City taking on Leicester, Liverpool against West Ham as well. There are rumours that Craig Burley might be returning as well. We'll see whether or not, indeed, those are true on tomorrow's show.